بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله الأعلى أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we start our course on the second level of Usul al-Fiqh. So, alhamdulillah, we had an introduction to Usul al-Fiqh based on the book Mabadi Usul al-Fiqh, or Principles of Jurisprudence, and introduction to the methodology of fiqh. Now we are going to a higher level, and inshallah with the terminology that you have already learned and with the general framework of Usul al-Fiqh that you have already grasped, I hope we will be able to move smoothly. But discussions are becoming more difficult, and inshallah, if you understand this book, you would better understand the way our ulama argue and do the reasoning in fiqh. This book is compiled by Ayatollah Subhani, one of our living maraji and great scholars who has contributed to Islamic library by producing many good books on history, on kalam, on aqaid, on tafsir, on fiqh, on usul al-fiqh. So some years back, the Hawza Ilmiya of they asked him to compile a book that can be used as a textbook in the Hawza for the second level. So this is the result of his, work, and this is now being used in many Hawzas all over Iran and outside Iran. And one of the good things about this book is that it helps you for further study of Usul al-Fiqh, because it follows the classic way of dealing with issues in Usul al-Fiqh. It follows the order of Kifayatul Usul by Akhund Khurasani. So if inshallah you are going to study Dars Kharij, this is very helpful. We have some other books which are very useful, but they have their own order and their own terminology and their own framework. It's good, but then if you want to go to the traditional books of Usul al-Fiqh, you would be, facing difficulties. But this is a book that paves the way for continuing your study in Hawza, inshallah. The text is in Arabic, and I know that for some of you still it's a new thing to read things in Arabic. We started with Bab Hadi Ashar last semester. We are going to carry on with that, but this semester also with Usul al-Fiqh you have to use Arabic text. Inshallah, gradually all your texts will be in Arabic, but little by little. But his style of writing is not very complicated. He writes very, clearly, and inshallah you should not have difficulty. The book starts with an introduction, but this introduction is not just something like formality. The serious introduction to the book has 12 subjects which are very important about the definition of Usul al-Fiqh, about its subject matter, what is the end of Usul al-Fiqh, means what is the purpose, ghaya, about classification of the subjects in Usul al-Fiqh, about wada', how to coin a term or a structure for some meanings, and so on and so forth. So there are 12 important discussions. Yes. Al-Mujaz fi Usul al-Fiqh. There are many different editions of this book.
It's very easily available.
Yes. It's online, the PDF is online, and we have ordered also the hard copy. Inshallah, the hard copy will come.
What is what Al-Mujaz mean?
Al-Mujaz means brief, concise. Mujaz. Ijaz means to say something with little words. Opposite to Ijaz is etnab.
Itnab.
Etnab with pa is when you bring lots of words and you speak excessively. Etnab. So we always have to use as many words as needed. Not too much, not too little. We have this terminology that sometimes we say إيجاز مخل وإتناب ممل. We should avoid both these two things. Sometimes it's too brief, so it is mukhil, means it doesn't help with understanding. It creates problem for understanding. If you speak very little words and then the idea is missed, it's not good. Or etnab, you speak too much and it causes boring. Mumil. Malala means you are bored. This is also not good. So a wise person speaks as much as needed, not more, not less. Okay? So this is the name of the book. Al-Mujaz fi Usul al-Fiqh. Means something brief. Okay. We now move on to the very first point in Al-Muqaddimah, in introduction. It's similar to what we had in the previous book. It's about the definition, ta'rif, the definition of Usul al-Fiqh. What is the definition of Usul al-Fiqh? What is the subject matter of Usul al-Fiqh? What is the purpose of studying Usul al-Fiqh? So that you have a better idea about why we study this book. To remind you of what we said before, and here there is not that much something new, just a new way of explaining the same thing that we had before. We said we have fiqh and we have usul al-fiqh. What is fiqh? Al-fiqh. Fiqh is the science that studies the rules by which you can draw Islamic rulings from its primary sources. This is fiqh. You remember? If you draw Islamic ruling from Risale Amaliyah, this is not al-fiqh. You don't need to be faqih to take the rulings from Risale. Of course, nowadays, even Risalas are difficult to understand for a person who is not expert. Because so many technical things, some people misunderstand Risale. But basically, to understand the Islamic rulings based on the fatwas of your mujtahid, this is not what makes you faqih. Faqih is the one who goes to the primary sources, to the detailed references, to Quran, to Sunnah, Ijma, Aql, and from them throws out the rulings. This is faqih. Okay? So, al-ilmu bil-ahkam al-shar'iyya and adillataha tafsiliyya. This is fiqh. But fiqh has some principles, some rules that are like methodology for fiqh. Faqih needs a methodology. Which text to accept, which text not to accept. Is khabar wahid hujjah or not? Is, for example, khabar wahid able to stand against the zahir of Quran or not? Is zawahir al-Quran hujjah or not? All these things that we mentioned before, and inshallah we are going to expand in this inshallah course. So, Usul al-Fiqh is a science that serves science of fiqh. Like logic, which serves philosophy and many other sciences. Usul al-Fiqh is also very important. If someone is not very capable in understanding Usul al-Fiqh, his fiqh is also weak. There is something we say in Hausa. We say, La fiqha liman la usul lah. These are the things that only when you are in Hausa you learn. So these are like passwords, if you want to get into the circles of ulama, you can use these things. La fiqha liman la usul lah. So it's very important for a mujtahid to be strong in usul al-fiqh. But also, usul al-fiqh has another advantage. Even if you are not going to be a mujtahid, you want to be a mufassir, you want to be an expert on akhlaq, you want to be an expert on family issues, on Islamic economics. Anything that is based on the Quran or Sunnah needs usul al-fiqh. Even a good mufassir needs usul al-fiqh. Because without usul al-fiqh, you don't know how to interpret the Quran. Or when there are some hadiths about one verse of the Quran, how to put them together. Or when there are conflicting hadiths, all the issue of ta'adul and taraji. So, usul al-fiqh is something that every person who wants to seriously get into Islamic studies needs. The third thing is that it also sharpens your mind. When you study Usul al-Fiqh, then you would no longer be naive. You would no longer be simplistic in your understanding. Whenever you are faced with a text, many different probabilities come to your mind. When someone asks you a question, then you need to clarify, you ask him further questions, because when you study Usul al-Fiqh, you know that for every single issue, there are different angles to look at it, and then different lights to shed on it. So someone who studies Usul al-Fiqh, you hear from him, I don't know, I need to think more than a layperson. A layperson thinks that he knows everything. Yeah? A person who is in early stage of studying Hausa, he thinks he knows many things. But when you study Usul al-Fiqh, then it's very difficult to answer to religious questions because so many sides to the same issue. So, whether it be for fiqh, whether it be for any Islamic science that wants to be serious and scholarly, or for broadening and sharpening your mind, you need Usul al-Fiqh. Okay? So now are you going to study seriously?
Inshallah.
Are you going to do mubahasa? Inshallah. Mubahasa is very much needed, especially now the text is Arabic. You have to do inshallah mubahasa. So, the idea of fiqh and usul al-fiqh, the relation between them is clear for you already. Let's see what Ayatollah Subhani says here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Amrul Awwal. The first issue, the first subject. Amr, as you know, sometimes means thing, affair, sometimes means command. When it means command, the plural is awamir. When it means thing, it's umur. Al-Amrul Awwal means the first thing, the first topic, the very first issue that we want to study in muqaddimah, in introduction. Ta'rifu ilm al-usul. Definition of the science of usul al-fiqh. When we say usul, means usul al-fiqh, because there is usul in the sense of ilm al-aqaid, they call usul, but this is usul al-fiqh. Ta'rifu ilm al-usul wa mawdu'uhu wa ghayatuhu. Definition of usul al-fiqh, its subject matter and its end. End means purpose. Ghaya. Why do you study usul al-fiqh? This is the purpose. إن لفظة أصول الفقه إن لفظة أصول الفقه, the term أصول الفقه has two words. Maybe if you can photocopy 2-3 pages, I mean 4 pages of the book at least. Pardon? Yes. And inshallah you will get it, but inshallah then hopefully by next week. We hope the books arrive. إن لفظة أصول الفقه. لفظة means this ta is for wahda, means the single word. أصول الفقه, this expression of أصول الفقه, تشتمل على كلمتين, has 2 words. تدلان على أن هنا أصولا وقواعد يتكل الفقه عليها. These 2 words, usul al-fiqh, this is muzaf and muzafun ilayh, they indicate that there are principles and rules on which fiqh rely. Yattakilu means rely, depend. Yes? Ittikal means to depend, to rely. فلا بد من تعريف الفقه أولا. So we should first define what is fiqh. ثم تعريف أصوله ثانيا. Then we have to define what is أصول الفقه. So let's first start with definition of fiqh. الفقه على ما هو المعروف في تعريفه. According to what is well known in definition of fiqh, fiqh is this. So we are giving you a very well established, well known definition of fiqh, something that you all are familiar. العلم بالأحكام الشرعية الفرعية عن أدلتها التفصيلية. العلم بالأحكام الشرعية الفرعية. Knowledge or science about religious rulings which are far'iyya, means these are derivatives, secondary. He will explain why we say far'iyya, because we are not talking about doctrines of theology and aqaid. We are talking about fiqh. It's far'i. It's about furu' ad-din, about practices. It's not about our dogmas or doctrines of faith. Al-ilm bil-ahkam al-shar'iyyah al-far'iyyah, the science about religious rulings which are far'iyya, which are practical, or you can say secondary, based on adillatiha tafsiliyya, on its detailed sources. Okay? Dalil. You remember we talked about dalil. We have dalil fiqhi, dalil ijtihadi, all those things that we discussed. So, fiqh is to know Islamic rulings about our practices from its primary detailed sources. It's not just to know how to make wuzu, how to say salat. It's not just to know your duty. It's to be able to go to the sources and draw these rulings out of those sources. So mujtahid is the one who can go back to the sources and draw Islamic rulings. فخرج بقيد الشرعية. We said العلم بالأحكام الشرعية. Why we say الأحكام الشرعية? Because we are not talking about al-ahkam al-aqliya or about other ahkam. He just mentions al-ahkam al-aqliya, but there are many other ahkam. We are only concerned here about the rulings of Sharia. فخرج بقيد الشرعية العقلية. So because of Sharia, aqliya is excluded. Because every definition has to be enjoying two characteristics. At least, of course, there are many, but from this perspective, two characteristics. Every definition has to include all the instances of what we want to define and exclude others. We say jami' wa mani'. Jami' means it's inclusive. For example, if you want to define human beings, you should bring a definition of human being that includes all human beings. If, for example, certain gender, certain age, certain ethnicity are excluded, this is not jami'ah. But also, if you make it too general that it includes other than human beings, like some animals, this is not mani'. So it has to be jami' and mani'. Okay? So, by saying ash-shar'iyya, we are excluding, because if it was just ahkam was too general. So it says shar'iyya means we want to exclude what is not shar'iyya, like al-ahkam al-aqliyya. Also we said al-far'iyya, because we want to go into the details of rulings. How should I say my prayer? How should I fast? All detail. How should I perform? Ram, sa'i, tawaf, all these detailed rulings. So, خرج بقيد الشرعية العقلية. وبالفرعية يعني خرج بقيد الفرعية الاعتقادية. Things which are about our faith, about our creed. وَالْمَسَائِلُ الْأُصُولِيَّةِ, also those things which are not about detailed actions. وَبِالتَّفْصِيلِيَّةِ, خَرَجَ بِالتَّفْصِيلِيَّةِ عِلْمُ الْمُقَلِّدِ بِالْأَحْكَامِ. Muqallid knows ahkam shar'i, but not from adilliyya tafsili, not from detailed references. Yeah? Muqallid has one common dalil. If you ask him why you say your prayer in this way, why you fast in this way, why you do Hajj in this way, for all of them he has one good reason. He says, this is what my mujtahid says. That's enough. Yes? But if you ask mujtahid about this, he cannot say unless he brings for every single fatwa his reasons. وبالتفصيلية علم المقلد بالأحكام فإنه, because although مقلد وإن كان عالما بالأحكام, although he is aware, is informed about أحكام, about rulings, لكنه لا عن دليل تفصيلي, but مقلد doesn't know based on detailed references. بل بتبع دليل إجمالي, he has one general reference, one general reason, argument. What is that general argument that muqallid has? حجية رأي المجتهد في حقه. He says, this agha is my marja, he is a'lam, he is muttaqi, he is adil, and it's hujjah for me. He uses the same fi ammat al-ahkam, for all the rulings he uses the same argument. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, start your question. Look, أحكام الشرعية
Yes.
and أحكام العقلية. So, أحكام الشرعية is fiqh, right? The rules of fiqh.
Yeah.
What is an example of أحكام العقلية?
Either those issues in aqaid that are based on aql, or philosophy which is based on aql, mantiq which is aql. There are many rulings which are just based on aql.
Right. Okay.
If you look at page 9, we are in the middle of page 9. Of course, maybe your page is different. Your page is different, yeah. Because there are different editions. Page 11. Did you find the فَخَرَجَ بِقَيْدِ الشَّرْعِيَّةِ الْعَقْلِيَّةِ? Okay? I repeat from here. فخرج بقيد الشرعية العقلية, with mentioning this modifier, we said الشرعية, to exclude al-aqliya. So if there is ahkam aqli, like philosophy, like that side of theology which is aqli, we say kalam aqli, we are not dealing with that in fiqh. وبالفرعية means خرج بالفرعية الاعتقادية, the things which are about belief, والمسائل الأصولية, or the things which are very general. وبالتفصيلية, we said it has to be from أدلة تفصيلي, so the knowledge of muqallid with respect to rulings is excluded. Muqallid's knowledge is not considered as fiqh. Muqallid's knowledge is taqlid, based on taqlid, because he has one general argument. لكن وبالتفصيلية علم المقلد بالأحكام فإنه وإن كان عالما بالأحكام, although he is aware of the rulings, لكنه لا عن دليل تفصيلي, his knowledge is not coming from detailed resources and references. بل بتبع دليل إجمالي, it comes because a common or general argument. What is that general argument that muqallid has? حجية رأي المجتهد في حقه. The opinion, رأي means opinion. The opinion of مجتهد is valid for me, is حجة for me. في عامة الأحكام, for all the مسائل he has this general point. أما المجتهد فهو عالم بكل حكم عن دليله الخاص. But mujtahid is the one that for every ruling his knowledge comes from دليله الخاص, from its specific reference, a specific reason. So muqallid is safe because he has reason. But his reason is only one reason that is general. He has hujjah, and mujtahid also has hujjah, but his hujjah is based on the fatwa of mujtahid. Mujtahid's opinion is hujjah based on doing ijtihad for every single mas'ala. Now, let's see what is the definition of usul. We said usul al-fiqh. We defined fiqh, now we want to define usul. Al-usul. وإليك بيان أمور ثلاثة فيه. We are now offering you explanation of three things. Is it clear or not? Sometimes I think maybe I'm explaining too much. It's okay? Everything is okay? تعريفه. What is the definition of usul al-fiqh? علم يبحث فيه عن القواعد التي يتوصل بالصاد, not بالسين. This is not from tawassul. Yeah, this is not. This is from wusul. It's not from wasila. It's from wusul. يتوصل بها إلى استنباط الأحكام الشرعية عن الأدلة. Just the fact that you understand the text is great, and then if you understand usul, then it's extra bonus. Yes? So it's very important that you are learning how to read and interpret Arabic texts. A science in which rules are studied. يبحث فيه عن القواعد. قواعد means rules. So the rules, please remember, I use rule for qa'idah and ruling for hukm. Remember this. Whenever it's ahkam, hukm, I use ruling. When there is qa'idah, qawaid, I use rule and rules. Keep these two clear in mind. The science in which the rules are studied. Which rules? Allati. Those rules by which we try to reach istinbat. يتوصل بها إلى استنباط الأحكام الشرعية. You want to use these rules in order to reach the point that you can do istinbat. Istinbat means to draw out, to infer the rulings. Initially, in lugha, literally, istinbat is to take water out of, for example, a well. Istinbat. So mujtahid is the one who digs very deep and reaches the sources of water and brings out and puts in a cup of water and says Bismillah. Then we take it so easily. We don't know how much hard work this person has done to give us this fatwa. Okay? It's not easy. So, يتوصل بها إلى استنباط الأحكام الشرعية. With these rules, you try to reach ijtihad. Istinbat means drawing out the religious rulings عن الأدلة, from the sources. So in Usul al-Fiqh, we are not directly talking about ahkam. Yes? In fiqh we talk about ahkam. In Usul al-Fiqh we talk about the rules that a faqih uses to reach ahkam. This is one level prior to fiqh. And this is why we said it is like methodology for fiqh. It prepares faqih. So here you learn rules that are like tools for faqih. Faqih uses these tools. These tools are very important. وعلى ذلك فعلم أصول الفقه من مبادئ الفقه. Based on what we said, the science of Usul al-Fiqh is one of the prerequisites, one of the things that you need to know for fiqh. Mabadi, we have, for every science we have mabadi. We have mabadi tasawwuri, we have mabadi tasdiqi. Some of the things that you have to know before entering that science. These are called mabadi. Okay? So ilm usul al-fiqh is one of the requirements or prerequisites of fiqh. وَيَتَكَفَّلُ. Takafful, what does it mean, takafful? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ana wa kafilul yatim kahatayn fil jannah." Kafilul yatim. Kafala. Take care. Yatakaffalu means takes care, means undertake this responsibility. Okay? Yatakaffalu. Kafala. علم أصول الفقه يتكفل بيان كيفية إقامة الدليل على الحكم الشرعي. It undertakes the explanation of how to establish, how to bring dalil, reasoning for حكم الشرعي. Okay? Is it clear? موضوعه. This was the definition. What is the subject matter? كل شيء يصلح لأن يكون حجة في الفقه. Anything that has the potential of being used as hujjah, as an argument in fiqh, we should discuss it in usul al-fiqh to establish whether it is hujjah or not. كل شيء يصلح لأن يكون حجة في الفقه ومن شأنه أن يقع في طريق الاستنباط. Everything that has the potential, has the characteristic that it can be used as argument, as a proof in fiqh, and occurs in the process of istinbat, in the process of ijtihad, is the subject matter of usul al-fiqh. It can be kitab, it can be sunnah, it can be ijma, it can be aql, it can be usul amaliyya. As you remember, we said dalil fiqhi, dalil ijtihadi, but each of them has also lots of subdivisions. Yes?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Anything that has the potential of being used as an argument in fiqh and occurs in the process of ijtihad, it's discussed as a subject matter in usul al-fiqh. فإنه ليس كل قاعدة علمية تصلح لأن تكون حجة في الفقه. It's not that every scientific rule is discussed in usul al-fiqh. There are many issues in nahv, sarf, balagha, mantiq, philosophy, We don't discuss about all the rules. We discuss those rules, those issues that can be used in the process of ijtihad, in the process of istinbat hukm shar'i. ليس كل قاعدة علمية تصلح. It's not that every scientific rule is qualified to be hujjah in fiqh. فليس لمسائل العلوم الطبيعية ولا الرياضية هذه الصلاحية. The problems which are discussed in natural sciences or in mathematics, they are not related to usul al-fiqh. Why? Because although these are scientific rules, but they don't apply to fiqh. They don't, benefit us in the process of ijtihad. And this is why we said, كل شيء يصلح لأن يكون حجة في الفقه. وإنما هي العديد من المسائل. علم أصول الفقه is about hujjah. Hujjah is something that is for issues like ظواهر الكتاب, خبر الواحد, الشهرة الفتوائية إلى غير ذلك. ظواهر الكتاب, inshallah we will discuss later again. We had it before in previous book. Is the apparent or outward meaning of the Quran hujjah or not? ظاهر الكتاب. خبر الواحد. If you have one just narrator of hadith, for example, is it reliable or not? If there is a hadith which has shuhrat fatwa'i, you remember we said we have shuhrat riwa'i and we have shuhrat fatwa'i. There is a hadith which by itself is weak. But fatwa which is corresponding to this hadith is very famous. So the fatwa corresponding to this is very famous. Does that famous fatwa supplement the sanad or not? These are the things that we discuss in Usul al-Fiqh. Third, غايته, the purpose, the end of studying Usul al-Fiqh is القدرة على استنباط الأحكام الشرعية عن أدلتها. القدرة means what? Ability. Ability of istinbat, drawing out religious rulings from their sources, أدلتها, والعثور على. عثور على means to know. This is something that you find in text. It's different from atharat, which means to make mistake. عثور على means to know something, to come to know something. العثور على أمور يحتج بها في الفقه على الأحكام الشرعية. To find those things that you can argue from them in fiqh for religious ruling. Those things that in fiqh you can argue from them for religious rulings. If inshallah you study Usul al-Fiqh and fiqh properly, then you should be able to be independent in understanding Islamic rulings. It's something very interesting that for someone who is not mujtahid, he must do taqleed or ihtiyat. Someone who is mujtahid, he must not do taqleed. He can do ihtiyat, but not taqleed. It's haram to do taqlid for someone who is mujtahid. Because if you yourself have reached that high level of analyzing, evaluating, examining the text, and understand that this is what Allah says, then you cannot follow another alim. This is the beauty of a school of Ahlul Bayt that has given us dynamism. So every mujtahid refers back to the original sources without being filtered by the opinion of other mujtahids. And although every mujtahid studies the books of previous ulama or contemporary ulama, but in the end of the day, he has to make up his mind and be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, you see, the balance is here. Those who are not qualified, they have to refer to qualified people. But those who are qualified, they cannot be lazy. They cannot, be dependent on others. They have to do a scholarly, exercise so that they come up with their own understanding. In this way, fiqh in a school of Ahlul Bayt is vital, is dynamic, it's always possible to have new ideas, but not from people who have not understood. This is the problem. We have lots of room for ijtihad. We have lots of room for new ideas and opinions. But for the people who are qualified for them, not for the people who are not qualified. Some people, because they have not understood the complexity and sophistication of ijtihad, they think, every person can give fatwa. But it's not easy. It's very, very difficult.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I've seen the very prominent alims like Al-Mujaz and Aka Haidar. The people were regarding them almost as mujtahid, but they were saying they were doing taqleed despite them having such a lot of knowledge. So we said it's haram to do taqleed, whether you have taqleed of Sistani all the time or Khoi before. So where do we stand? Where do we stand?
So
They were very knowledgeable.
that person, between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, should be able to say that I have reached the level of ijtihad. And this is something that can only happen if you have been in circles of study for many years, and normally comes with recognition of other people, like your teachers. So in the past it was very common, still we have, but especially in the past, we had ijazi ijtihad. So the marja, the Ayatollah with whom you studied, he says to you that you are mujtahid, and from now you cannot do taqlid.
He tells you that.
Yeah. So, because this is not something easy, it's a big shift in your life. When you become mujtahid, it's a very big shift in your life, and you have to be careful. Therefore, it's very important to get recognition and certification of ulama that know you and can judge about you. وَمِمَّا ذَكَرْنَا يُعْلَمُ وَجْهُ الْحَاجَةِ إِلَىٰ أُصُولِ الْفِقْهِ. As you see, the book doesn't have i'rab, but you should be able to read it correctly without having i'rab. وَمِمَّا ذَكَرْنَا يُعْلَمُ. You shouldn't say يَعْلَمُ. يُعْلَمُ وَجْهُ الْحَاجَةِ. In your mubahisa, you must be very careful. If your friend, misreads, you can tell him that this is not a fa'il, it has to be marfu. Why you say, mansub? All these things are very important. ومما ذكرناه يعلم وجه الحاجة إلى أصول الفقه. From what we said, the reason for having need in Usul al-Fiqh is known. Yes? So by what we said, you understand, you know why we need to study Usul al-Fiqh. فَإِنَّ الْحَاجَةَ إِلَيْهِ كَالْحَاجَةِ إِلَىٰ عِلْمِ الْمَنْطِقِ. The need for Usul al-Fiqh is like the need for logic. فَكَمَا أَنَّ الْمَنْطِقِ يرسم النهج الصحيح في كيفية إقامة البرهان فهكذا الحال في علم الأصول. In the same way that logic draws for us, يرسم is drawing, but here means clarifies, explains for us. Logic explains what is proper method of bringing argument, establishing argument. In the same way, we need علم الأصول فإنه يبين كيفية إقامة الدليل على الحكم الشرعي. Usul al-Fiqh also explains how to bring argument, how to establish proof, argument for religious ruling. Okay? Al-Amr al-Thani. I hope you are not tired. At least one page maybe. But I will ask you again. Let me finish this half page. Al-Amr al-Thani. Al-Amr al-Thani is something about how to classify the problems that we discuss in Usul al-Fiqh, the masail. Problem here means masail, the things that we discuss in Usul al-Fiqh. There are different ways of classification. He says, all the masail of Usul al-Fiqh after Muqaddamah can be divided into 4 categories. So we would have 4 sections. First, al-mabahith al-lafziyya, linguistic discussions. Al-mabahith al-lafziyya. You remember we had in the previous book mabahith al-alfaz. Yes? ويقع البحث فيها عن مداليل الألفاظ وظواهرها. In this section of Usul al-Fiqh, which we call it linguistic discussions, we study madalil. Madalil is the plural for madlul. Madlul means meaning. Yeah? You remember we said we have dalala, we have dal, and madlul. Dalala means to signify, to indicate. Dal or dalil is the one which signifies, which in this case is lafz, a term. And madlul is what is understood from this, which is the meaning, the sense. So in Mabahith al-Alfaz, we study, the discussion is about madalilul alfaz, the meanings of the terms. وَظَوَاهِرُهَا, what is the apparent meaning of these alfaz, which occur in the path, the process of istinbat. For example, is sighatul amr something from which you can understand the wujub if there is no overriding evidence? Is zahirun fil wujub?
Yes.
Not nassun. ظاهر. It means that as long as there is no qarinah sarifah, there is no an overriding evidence, the outward meaning is wujub. It's a question. Where do you study this question? In mabahith al-alfaz. You know, we had awamir, nawahi, am, khas, mafahim, mutlaq, muqayyad. All these things are mabahith al-alfaz. Okay? ويقع البحث فيها عن مداليل الألفاظ وظواهرها التي تقع في طريق الاستنباط. In this مباحث الألفاظ, the discussion is about the meanings of the terms and their apparent meanings that occur in the process of istinbat, like the apparent meaning of sighatul amr and whether it indicates wujub or not. You remember we had sighatul amr and what? Sighatul amr and maddatul amr. Sighatul amr and maddatul amr. Please, in the weekend, review quickly the previous book. It takes you maybe just a few hours, but it's good, you know, as a reminder. إن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين والمؤمنات. Mu'minin here includes mu'minat as well. Okay? Of course, the ayah is just mu'minin, but I am saying mu'minin and mu'minat are meant. Athani. Athani means what? The second part of Usul al-Fiqh. The second section of Usul al-Fiqh. Imagine Usul al-Fiqh is a building which has 4 floors. The first floor is Mabahithul Alfaz. And now we are in the first floor. Yeah? Actually, we are now in the underground because we are talking about Muqaddimah. But getting to the first floor, inshallah. The second floor, the second section, Al-Mabahithul Aqliyah. The intellectual discussions. وَيَقَعُ الْبَحْثُ فِيهَا. In this level, in this section, the discussion is about al-ahkam al-aqliyyah al-kulliyah. Why I say al-ahkam al-aqliyyah? Because there is an is jar. Yes? An al-ahkam. And al-aqliyyah is tabi, because sifat is tabi. An al-ahkam al-aqliyyah al-kulliyah. We discuss about general intellectual rulings. General intellectual rulings which occur in the process of istinbat. This is very important. It has to be useful for istinbat. We don't talk about those intellectual things that has nothing to do with istinbat. That is not fiqh and usul al-fiqh. Those things that occur in the process of istinbat. Like what? نظير البحث عن وجود الملازمة بين وجوب الشيء ووجوب مقدمته. If you remember in the Mabahis Aqli, we had discussion of mulazama. Can we understand from wujub al-muqaddama, wujub al-muqaddama? For example, if Hajj is wajib, can we understand that the prerequisites for Hajj are also wajib? Yeah? Of course, we said there is no doubt about the intellectual wujub. The point was, is there also wujub al-shar'i or just wujub al-aqli? Remember? Otherwise, there is no point in discussing that wujub al-aqli is there. When you, for example, if you are told, a famous example is this: Kun ala. If the master, the Mawla says, be on the roof. This is wajib. So Aql tells you that you have to use ladder to go on the roof. So using ladder is wajib. But the question is it wajib shari or wajib aqli? That's the question. Otherwise it's wajib. Yes? Talabul ilm farida. Learning is wajib. Mubahasa is a prerequisite. So Rasulullah doesn't need to tell you mubahasa is also wajib. Because you know, muqaddamatul wajib, wajib. Going to hawza, going to teacher, all are prerequisites. So, there is mulazama. Mulazama means what? Co-implication, correlation. It's from both sides. It's, of course, in this case it's one side, but mulazama, it has to be from both sides, literally. The third floor, the third section, مباحث الحجج والأمارات. Amarat, no, amarat. Yeah. Amarat is from Amara, but this is Amara. Amara means sign. Sign. We use Amarat for those hujjaj which are dhanni. Yeah? Dhanni means they don't 100% show what is meant, but they are reliable. Like khabar wahid. Khabar wahid is Amara. You cannot say, by Allah, wallahi, this is right. Because maybe this person made mistake. Maybe he misunderstood. There is no 100%, but it is reliable hujjah. It's amara. So the third section is about hujjaj, different types of arguments and dalils and amarat. كالبحث عن حجية خبر الواحد. Is خبر الواحد hujjah or not? We discuss it in the third section. الرابع مباحث الأصول العملية. Discussions about practical principles. You remember we said sometimes we don't know al-hukm al-awwali. We don't know the primary ruling. But we have to do something. Then we have four options. Sometimes istishab, sometimes bara'ah, sometimes takhir, sometimes ihtiyat. It was also in one of the exam questions. Why it cannot be 5 or less. Yeah, remember? He said, sometimes you know the previous condition certainly, is it istishab. Sometimes you don't know the previous condition and you have doubt in obligation, this is bara'ah. Sometimes you don't know the previous condition, but you have no doubt, you know that there is taklif. So here, if it's possible, you have to do ihtiyat. If it is bayn al-mahdurain, you have takhir. This is why there has to be 4. So, al-usul al-amaliyya hiya تبحث عن مرجع المجتهد عند فقد الدليل على الحكم الشرعي. It talks about where mujtahid has to refer. Marji', we say marji' taqlid. Marji' means where we have to refer. Now it can be a person, it can be a dalil. Here usul al-amaliyya are where mujtahid has to refer when he doesn't have a dalil ala al-hukm al-shar'i, means hukm al-shari'a awwali. Because this is also hukm al-shari'i, but this is hukm al-shari'a sanawi or hukm al-zahiri. Okay, like bara'a, like istishab, all these things. So, this is one way of classifying discussions of usul al-fiqh. Ayatollah Subhani says there is another way. Some people, some ulama, especially contemporary ulama, they divide it into 2 sections. they call مباحث الفاظ و مباحث عقلی. Okay, so they divided into 2 sections. Everything about alfaz is one section. Everything is about aql and mulazamat, all these things in another section. But both of them make sense. It depends on which one you want to follow. The next discussion is about wad'. Maybe we leave it for the next week so that you can have the text and you can prepare yourself. But I give you just a little idea. Wad' means to allocate a term to a meaning. For example, in English, we say book, but there must be allocations. So whenever we say book, something like this comes to our mind. It's not by chance. At one point, someone has made this decision that when we say book, we mean this. When we say desk, we mean this. Okay, when we say chair, we mean something. So this is called wad', means to coin a term, to allocate a term to a meaning, to coin a term for a meaning. But wad' can be ta'yini and ta'ayyuni. Just to remember, something to prepare the ground. Ta'yini means a specific person or a specific body says, for this meaning, we use this term. Ta'yin. It's fixed. It's allocated. Ta'ayyun means over time. Gradually, this term has got this meaning. Like for example, Medina in Arabic means city. And no one said that we should use Medina for Yathrib. But people so many times used Madinatul Nabi, Madinatul Nabi, Madinatul Nabi. Then now when we hear Medina, it has a second meaning. One meaning is general, any city. Another meaning is Yathrib, Madinatul Nabi. Did any group of people, any council, any person fix this? No. This is ta'ayyun, means so many times. This was repeated so that automatically, whenever we think of Medina, that comes to our mind. There's a kind of association of meaning and the term. So we have waz' ta'yini, we have waz' ta'ayyuni. Then we have 4 types of waz'. Inshallah, we will discuss it next week. So my request from you is to review quickly your previous book and read the next few pages in advance, at least 4 or 5 pages in advance, so that when you come to the class, your mind is prepared. And please do mubahasa. This semester I'm going to be more strict. So I hope you will not have any person who doesn't do mubahasa.
We have started.
Otherwise you will see that Sheikh Shumali sometimes may get angry. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.